Why did Bunko fail? Simple, it's Nerf or nothing.
It was a Nerf, so it was nothing.
To sum up this video with one phrase,
because it's
the
Nerf
reason
or
why they
nothing.
failed, it's
Not
Nerf or
Nerf
nothing.
It just looks like nothing to me.
It's
You failed because it's
It's
Nerf.
Nerf or nothing.
It's Nerf or nothing.
You know, when you see the same joke over the course of a month or so, it gets old really quickly. But it's not without its merits. After all, Nerf pioneered the modern-day toy gun. In 1992, they created the original Nerf Dart, which changed the sports toy brand forever. And it changed again in 2003 when N-Strike debuted. Hasbro had spawned a community of engineers and artists who wanted to make their blasters as powerful as they thought they were, and often while building something new. Yet today, the Nerf community has a love-hate relationship with the toy brand that they are named after. Some Nerfers, both hardcore and casual, are shifting over to new players, or even designing their own foam flingers to sell to others. Also, it's November, and you know what that means. Early Christmas marketing. So, for the parents out there who are reluctant to shell out for Nerf, why do Nerfers hate Nerf? It's only fair to talk about why people would still buy Nerf. This video can't just all be doom and gloom. Firstly, there's the brand name. Secondly, the Nerf customization ecosystem is simply a smart and modular design. It gives a lot of room for interchangeability and customization that Nerfers love. The ecosystem was built up over the years when N-Strike debuted in 2003. N-Strike was not Nerf's mainline group of products. This was. N-Strike was supposed to be a sub-brand, like today's Modulus or Zombie Strike. Instead of a toyish cartoon look, N-Strike used the sci-fi military-esque theme that we today call tactical. Instead of soldiers, N-Strike's marketing heavily emphasized secret missions and the elite agent role, with a great focus on practical customization. Most other brands used to make single-piece blasters, which were largely incomparable with the ecosystem, darts aside. But these days you have to do more than just share the same dart size. Competitors either try to make their own version of the system, make theirs comparable with Nerf's, or just straight up copy it. Then there's the material quality. Nerf's plastic shells have been top-notch for many years. They just feel quality compared to competitors, especially Bus B. Although I do feel that X-Shot and Dart Zone are quite close these days. Counterpoint, Hasbro designers know how to make a good-looking blaster, most of the time. Most Nerf blasters look good and are designed to fit all ages. Nice grips, ergonomic designs that can fit both adults and children, etc. And because Nerf blasters are so common, there's a lot of aftermarket modding and customization support. There's always some kind of Strife replica shell, a Retaliator pump kit, hammer shot spring upgrade, or a lightning stock replica. It's a lot easier to access and buy modifications that are designed specifically for Nerf blasters. Plus, outside of the usual reshells, Nerf always experiments with new concepts. Many are crap and barely functional, but many others are genuinely interesting products. And once in a while, Hasbro builds something truly game-changing, even if they demand your wallet's soul. No, please. Nerf is the toy equivalent of General Motors. They know how to make a great product, yet sometimes, or rather oftentimes, they tend to squander that talent. The Nerf hobby is affordable. Nerf is not. With the exception of Rival, Nerf dart blasters tend to cost more than their equivalent competitors, while also performing worse. Their average muzzle velocity is around 70 feet per second, and their smaller blasters go lower. And even some of their most expensive dart blasters can't achieve the standard Nerf 70 FPS, let alone fire rapidly enough to make up for it. Meanwhile, competing brands can go anywhere between 80 to 100 FPS. You know the Nerf Limited line. It's a series of premium cross-promotional blasters designed for brands and media properties. In the past, such products tend to be lower quality and poor performing compared to regular Nerf blasters, and they were more expensive due to licensing costs. This was especially so for the Star Wars dart blasters, but Nerf Limited promised the most detailed blasters and fancy boxes. Well, except a certain Mandalorian pulse rifle shoots worse than a jolt. I know it's a prop blaster, but you'd expect its range to be on par with, if not better than, regular Nerf blasters, especially since its price tag is in the triple digits. This does not bode well for the other upcoming limited products. But the most expensive part of the hobby isn't always the blasters, but the consumable darts. You lose them, they'll wear out, they'll become your dog's favorite chew toy, so you have to replace them semi-regularly. They're also a high profit margin product. They're cheap to manufacture and Nerf can easily set a high price. And this is something the community has beef with. Nicknamed the 50 cal dart because its size is literally 50 calibers, hashia! The foam dart is the classic coke of foam ammo types. The elite darts originated from N-Strike Streamline darts, and for a long time, Nerf was the only source for good and safe darts. Not because they were good for their time, but because they were the best compromise. An elite dart has a soft and hollow rubber head, with an air hole that allows air to escape from the head as it compresses on impact, softening the blow. This reduces the risk of leaving welts or taking out eyes, unlike knockoffs with their hard plastic tips. But that safety came at a cost, literally, and they were still crap performers. During flight, air flows into just one side of the dart tip, building up inside and making it unbalanced. This is probably not a factually correct comparison, but think of a race car whose front end gets too much air and lifts up. One method to counter this was to fill the tips with hot glue to improve range and precision. However, it negates the safety aspect of the hollow tips, so never fire such a dart at someone's face! And some Nerf games ban this, as it runs the risk of allowing a player who filled their darts with metal or some other dangerous bullcrap. You know, like those cheeky cunts who poke needles through the tips of their darts. If you want more precision, the Elite suction darts had a redesign that made them compatible with Nerf magazines, at the cost of some range due to poorer aerodynamics. However, the Elites have been long surpassed. In 2005, K-Nex announced the K-Force Blaster line. Yes, that K-Nex. Their darts used a honeycomb structure that crumples upon impact to absorb force. The dense heads don't trap and build up air, so they don't wobble and fishtail like a flip-flopping spouse. It's equally safe and more precise with minimal sacrifice to range. However, their Achilles heel was that they were cheaply manufactured and expensive. After K-Force died for a variety of other reasons, third-party groups began offering their version of the honeycomb design. Dart Zone released their own spin on the honeycomb design in 2018. They called it the Sure Shot, better known by its nicknames Waffle Tips or Waffle Heads. Dart Zone used to make super darts that were just as bad as elite darts, on top of being too short for use in many Nerf blasters. But they continuously improved their designs, and they didn't rest on their laurels. The original Sure Shot has now been succeeded by the new Sure Shot Red Diamond Darts. These diamond darts have narrower tips, which can allow them to fly further than the older design in certain blasters. Then of course, there's the Adventure Force Pro and Dart Zone Pro darts, designed specifically for Dart Zone's top-of-the-line hobby-grade blasters. Busby has those awful long-distance darts, but they're sold alongside the decently precise Pro darts. Did I forget to mention that both brands are cheaper? Yet, Nerf insists on using Elite darts. This is despite coming out with their own AccuStrike Elite design years ago. While they're not as widely adopted as Waffle Heads, nor do they fly as far, they're still much better than Elites. But now, Nerf no longer sells this as an alternative. Why? We don't know. Best guess is that maybe it's a safety thing, so that your aspiring cowboy son doesn't accidentally take your glasses out. Then again, maybe that elite dart will fly around your face and into your mother's ash face. Elite darts can still be useful in shotgun blasters, where you want the darts to spread out. But you might as well get the slightly less awful and cheaper X-Shot darts, which can also fly slightly faster and further because they weigh less. Why should we pay more for the objectively worse-in-class product? Brand name cannot justify this. At least Rival uses a dense, consistently high-quality foam material that doesn't jam up often, so this Nerf ammo is worth the premium. Nerf desperately needs a new standard dart design. Now, you might be arguing that I don't have to buy the crappy darts. True, that's what every sane Nerfer does. Buy a Nerf blaster that a boy or a girl would like, and add on some Dart Zone Waffle Heads. But then there's the next point. Number 2, cheaping out. Ever since the competition began upgrading, Nerf has lost some of their market share. There are various reasons for this. Busby has been around forever as the established budget alternative. X-Shot blasters provide retail shops with better margins because Zuru owns the factory that manufactures their blasters. They can thus keep production costs down by keeping them in-house instead of outsourcing the manufacturing. Meanwhile, Dart Zone is gaining favor with the Nerf community, so they have a niche yet dedicated customer base, some of whom are influencers. To counter these brands and the previous point, Nerf introduced the Alpha Strike line in 2019. These were essentially carbon copies of the X-Shot lineup, even the cans, offering the Nerf brand name and performance at a budget price. Many of the blasters are sold in sets and with a bunch of darts, trying to offer a 3 for the price of 2 sort of value. Alpha Strike also looks and feels like a Nerf knockoff. The biggest sticking point was that they were held together by plastic clips. Nerf blasters are normally held together by metal screws, which makes it easy for modders to take them apart to replace internal parts, as well as reopening them if they need to make new changes or fix mistakes. With plastic clips, they just snap the parts together, cutting out the cost of metal screws and the extra manufacturing step of screwing them in. But it makes modding more difficult, because these clips are part of the lower quality blaster shells. You have to pry these things apart carefully and hope you don't break the plastic, or else you'll have committed toy homicide and wasted your cash. Plus, many of them had these uncomfortable skeleton grips to further cut costs. But it's fine, it's for small kids. And in 2020, they made some changes. The Hammerstorm opted to use screws, and after much criticism, they added black grip covers. So that gave us some hope for Alpha Strike. So let's be reasonable. If my kid wants to mod, I'll just get the competition, which still uses screws. Otherwise, I'll just buy the regular Elite. Elite 2.0 appeared with little drama and would use the same cost-cutting techniques as Alpha Strike. They are held together by a combination of screws and plastic clips. However, some screw posts were replaced by solvent welding. You pretty much have to risk breaking the shell to open it up, which is an unnecessary change. Imagine that it's the school holidays and your kid is having a beach birthday. Now, imagine that your kid somehow stuffs sand inside his Elite 2.0 Commander. You don't want to buy an expensive replacement, it's cheaper to open it up and clean it out. Instead, the plastic clips and solvent welding completely strips you of the option to repair or mod the Elite 2.0 blasters. And there's another issue, plastic leaf springs. They're another cost-cutting alternative to metal springs and are significantly more prone to breaking. Nerf blasters typically use leaf springs in tactical rail locks, which is fine as they're not a core part of the firing mechanism and don't undergo tremendous stress. But Elite 2.0 and some other new blasters use leaf springs in the triggers and magazine locks. You might be asking, why does this matter? I don't want my child to mod, and I have money to burn unlike you poor Zoomers. This is fine.
Are you joking?
The smart AR was all herp derping. It was farting out on accident.
And check this out, and I didn't even pull it hard.
A child is gonna chew through these.
And then on this one, I broke the priming handle.
I didn't even do it that hard. I did it normal. I was maybe 6 shots in, maybe 7.
And then I just broke this one right when I turned my camera on in a different way. This one's seizing up.
How do I do the review if the thing just broke?
You guys hear that?
If I were to gift this to one of my younger cousins or nieces, I'd feel pretty bad. You're basically being forced into one of these options if you want a well-built Nerf blaster, all of which are more expensive and only some of them you might consider worth it. The only way to get around this is the in-house sub-brands and sub-series, which are still built with screws. Currently, Nerf has Zombie Strike, Dino Squad, and, funny enough, Elite 2.0 flip shots. However, these themed blasters don't have the full N-Strike ecosystem like Elite 2.0, which is their main selling point. By the way, a recent addition to 2.0 is a reshell of an Alpha Strike blaster set. There's also some criticism about how the blasters only have paint on one side, which is indeed quite annoying if you're not a painter and should be included in the cost of higher-end blasters, but it's a non-issue for some Nerfers. Damn, Elite 2.0 barely has any paint. No wonder why I find it so ugly. Nerf has diluted their core line of products with suspect quality, and it's even leaching into some of their other products. As to why they did this, it could be to prioritize funds on their various licensed products and other new product lines. I would not recommend any current blaster from the Elite 2.0 line, except maybe for the turbine, lest you get a high on disappointment. In which case, I wouldn't judge. False marketing. N-Strike advertised ranges up to 35 feet, but even for kids back in the 2000s, that felt underwhelming. In 2012, N-Strike Elite was revealed as the successor to N-Strike. The debut blasters were the Retaliator, Rampage, and Hailstorm, the first two being updated versions of staple N-Strike blasters. The most interesting part was the major marketing point, that the blasters featured ranges up to 75 feet. Nerfers assumed that the blasters could fire 75 feet flat. This was not the case. Upon testing, they could only fire at up to 50 feet flat, but can reach up to 75 feet when angled at 30 degrees. So the claim is still technically true, and they had firing velocities of 70 feet per second, so Nerfers eventually let this slide. The important thing was that the Retaliator and Rampage received a superior plunger design to fire the darts, as well as better air sealing, which made modding these blasters much easier. Many of the next Elite blasters would fire at 70 feet per second. In 2014, Nerf revealed the Demolisher and Cam ECS-12 at the New York Toy Fair, and released them later that summer. These blasters were called Elite XD, claiming ranges up to 85 or 90 feet. Later on, Nerf re-released Elite blasters under the XD branding between late 2014 to early 2015. Nerfers were excited. Everyone was thinking that Nerf was raising the standard, that the blasters could finally hit close to the 75-foot flat range, essentially nullifying the need for lower-end modding. Nerf even corresponded with major Nerf blogging site Blaster Labs, claiming that these blasters would indeed receive better performance. Except it was all a goddamn lie. They were exactly the same as before. Hell, the cam was an overpriced potato camera that fired worse than the pre-XD Strife. Meanwhile, the competition was somehow gaining performance boosts, with Dart Zone releasing the first 100fps stock dart blaster in 2014, and then Busby and X-Shot following closely behind, with 75 to 90 FPS performance. Point is, Nerf was facing a bit of pressure from its cheaper rivals. Mattel was also entering the toy blaster market with Bunko, rest in peace. Being one of the world's biggest toy makers and Hasbro's direct rival, the introduction of Bunko was cause for concern. But this doesn't change the fact that none of these Nerf blasters could ever hit 90 feet in the real world. Hasbro exaggerated their claims, which they still do with their current dart blasters, and thus Elite XD will remain a bitter point in Nerf history for the community. Okay, so this is more of a bonus mention to clear up any potential misconceptions, so I'm only going to touch on this for a short while. While researching, a lot of articles made it a point to mention that off-brand blasters were pretty unreliable, unlike Nerf, which was indeed true, and the three main upstarts have come a long way since their knockoff days, such that they are considered by the Nerf community to be on equal standing to Nerf. Speaking of which, there was a recent controversy over Busby's Walmart branded blasters, the TetraShot and Thundershot. Their manufacturer might have tried to cheap out on core components, which was swiftly resolved by Busby upon community backlash, and after their social media contractors mucked up. Busby customer service is pretty top-notch, reaching out to reviewers like Mongoose Jake, Beret, and American Foam. It's much better than Hasbro's slow handling of the Warden debacle. And Nerf has suffered from hit-and-miss reliability too. The Raider jammed, the Longstrike jammed, the Alpha Trooper had a weak priming bar. This has gotten better after the debut of Enshire Elite, but they had a couple of duds too. The Mega Centurion had a dart chewing issue. Even something as simple as the Surge Fire had issues with dart skipping when you slam fire. Semi-auto electronic blasters like the older Strifes had safety locks that can make jams semi-frequent, but at least you can open it up and remove them. Unlike Elite 2.0, which also removes slam fire from the Surge Fire successor instead of fixing it. But look, it can be hard to produce cool things that function flawlessly the first time, and sometimes it's an inherent flaw that you just have to kind of live with. Toy makers are constantly forced to try something new, whether it's expensive, complex, or both. Or else, kids won't ask for Nerf. It's just that today Nerf also costs a premium, so you kind of expect them to fail less. But for the most part, their products don't jam or malfunction. Except for the deploy, fuck this thing! My brother and I had this dart chewing piece of shit. It never shot far, and it got worse very quickly. The only good thing about it was the transforming function, but that started going faulty too. I would never wish this thing upon my worst enemy. Which is why we gave it to my brother's frenemy, whom I despised. The primary example for this final point could go into any of the previous points, but it's going here for a reason. When Ultra was leaked, we had no idea what to expect. What cool gimmick would it have? Was Hasbro going to finally take over the hobby market and sucker punch Dart Zone Pro? No. More was revealed with the official debut of the Ultra 1. Nerf positioned Ultra between Elite and Rival, with the furthest flying Nerf dart ever. In an article by Paul Ziobro for the Wall Street Journal, Hasbro's official reason for the creation of Ultra is that the Elite Dart has become the toy blaster segment standard and is thus too easy to replicate. Because the market is getting so competitive, Ultra was created as a step up from Elite. There is a second theory that may or may not conflict with previous points. However, Nerfers feel that Ultra fails to offer a meaningful niche. For example, Rival is a paintball-inspired performance blaster meant for teenagers. Mega and the new Mega XL give an intimidating and absurd fun factor with their large darts. And in some Nerf games, Mega Darts are used as a special ammo type to break shields or tag players wearing armor. It's also used for the same purpose in some humans vs zombies games that feature special zombies or bosses. The Nerf rockets are also used in a similar manner. And Vortex offered a unique playstyle centered around slow-moving, long-distance discs that can ricochet. It's dead now, but it was fun while it lasted. Ultra is just a chunky elite blaster. Just like the Xbox X01 Series X, a big part of what made Elite so popular amongst the community wasn't just that it was a performance upgrade. It was still backwards compatible with regular N-Strike blasters, magazines, and darts. Case in point, the Elite repaints of regular N-Strike blasters. Ultra is not. It is a new ammo type that was designed in a manner for no one to directly compete with. These so-called stabilizing fins and that stubby back end seem to be more for the purpose of being difficult to replicate than being actually accurate, and Nerf's got a pattern on it. Hasbro doubled down on this by designing the pusher mag to only fire when it detects the back end of an Ultra dart. Modders looking to adapt Ultra blasters to the 50 cal dart format would also have to modify the propulsion mechanism. It's also not so reliable in the 1 and the 2. As Sean Hollister from The Verge describes it, it's DRM for darts. Additionally, the darts are made of a styrofoam type material, and you know how durable styrofoam is. Early reviews found a major discrepancy in the dart durability. Some could bend and were pretty tough. Others would decapitate themselves after firing. Hopefully that has improved. Being larger, you can't carry as many Ultra darts as you can with the 50 cal dart type. Some of these things might have been somewhat acceptable, and Nerfers might have held on for changes, if Ultra actually lived up to its range and accuracy claims. I don't see Pro darts using stabilizing fins to be more precise than Ultra. Also, now there's AccuStrike Ultra darts. Why couldn't they start with that? What use is a 120 foot range claim if you can't even hit what you're aiming at? It just doesn't feel like there's any good reason to invest in Ultra. Some blasters are cool enough, but Nerfers would rather modify and adapt them to use 50 cal darts. Thus, some Nerfers feel that Nerf is overexpanding. On top of Ultra, Nerf came out with the Hyper line. They're basically rival blasters that fire tiny rival balls, and can fit loads more ammo into a small package. But they're nowhere as accurate as rival, and it's much easier to lose track of the Hyper rounds. The latter point even brings up environmental concerns. Maybe they just need more time to come up with a great blaster, like a 1000 round rotary cannon. But for some Nerfers, Hyper feels unnecessary, when rival's already pretty darn good. Then you have all of these. Fortnite, Halo, Roblox, and now friggin' Minecraft. Having to design and manufacture these additional licensed products may be part of why Elite 2.0 received so many cost-cutting changes. Don't get me wrong, many of the blasters are solid, but many are also overpriced and bland to play garbage. Many Nerfers feel that the brand should be investing in making their core dart and blaster platforms better than the competition, or at least use the opportunity to make something unique. Instead, Hasbro is expanding into so many properties and newer ammo types that they're offering the same or worse version of something that they've already made before. Now, let's wrap this up soon. If we're being honest, the Nerf community is small. A multi-million-dollar brand like Nerf does not need to cater to us. A spokesperson reported that Hasbro sold over 40 million Nerf blasters earlier in 2020, and they've got the budget for video games, action experience centers, and apparently an unscripted competition show coming next year. It's the same thing with car enthusiasts who lament the small market of affordable performance cars. Compared to the wider casual market, the Nerfing community is picky and can only afford to buy a few blasters a year or two, often mixing with other brands. Catering to such a small hobby market would be difficult. Rival will have to suffice, and besides, the smaller Dart Zone and various hobby brands dominate the hobby-grade space that spawned from the Nerf modding scene. They're getting that market cornered, and it might be a waste for Hasbro to try now. That said, the biggest threat may not be Dart Zone. In 2018, Nerf had over 70% share of the toy blaster segment. According to Forbes in 2021, that has dropped to 65%, largely attributed to the growth of Zuru's X-Shot blasters. And very little can excuse their reluctance to move on from their lousy elite darts. They are cheaply made anti-modification blasters, the blatant marketing lies, and the mountains of new ammo types and mediocre licensed blasters. This isn't just bad for the hobbyists, but also for all consumers. Parents who work day and night to earn their stagnating salaries to give their kids that once-a-year nice toy. Or teenagers scraping together spare cash from abusive, underpaying part-time jobs on top of saving up for their education. Maybe you're luckier than them. Maybe you're one of them. Whether we are modders, painters, or just reviewers, we call ourselves Nerfers because Nerf is the one that started it all. They created a toy that turned into something bigger, a casual sport for those who can't play airsoft or paintball. a hobby for engineers and artists alike that nice kids could easily afford and share with their own children. Now we're seeing Nerf coasting on brand name, and they probably can for the next few years with a couple of innovations in between, unless someone else disrupts the market. Once upon a time, it truly was Nerf or nothing, but that time is long gone. We just hope that one day, maybe they'll find a compromise, and to take to heart the concerns of their oldest, most loyal, and most burnt out fans. Thank you for watching. Now like and subscribe before I gut him.